wise chicken once said, "Ethics is the difference between knowing what you have a right to do and knowing what is right to do." As you may remember from our presentation earlier this afternoon, Barter Enterprises, a chicken meat company based in Australia, is being sued by the Australian consumer watchdog, the ACCC. The ACCC is alleging that Barter's advertising campaign was misleading and deceptive. Barter claimed in its advertisements that its chickens were free to roam, and it showed pictures of chickens frolicking in green fields, under sunshine, with lots of space to move. The reality was something very different. Barter's chickens are in fact kept in massive barns, housing 30 to 40,000 birds, and the average stocking density is about 18 birds per square metre. This litigation is costly and it's posing a massive threat to Barter's brand. It also highlights a far broader issue of increasing consumer awareness and concern about animal welfare issues and a growing market trend towards cruelty-free products. Earlier today, we recommended to you that you adopt a tiered solution. In the short term, we recommended that you settle the proceedings, that Barter cease legal action to avoid significant legal costs and also uncertainty in the future. Secondly, in the midterm, we recommended that Barter adopt an ethical oversight mechanism to ensure that its advertisements going forward in the future are not misleading. And finally, we recommended that Barter adapt its farming practices, improve animal welfare in its chicken meat production business, and thereby really become a leader in the ethical food market.
So I would like to now discuss how it is that our recommendations address the ethical issues in this case. The easiest way of understanding what is ethically at stake here is to ask, who is implicated? Who are the stakeholders? In our understanding, these can be divided up into four distinct groups. First of all, there are the customers. There is the company, there is its shareholders, and finally, there are also the chickens themselves. I would like to begin by focusing on the customers. Our solution addresses them by ensuring great accuracy in advertising through improved fact-checking measures. It also moves to address their concerns with animal welfare by changing our production methods in the long term. In greater and greater numbers, customers today are facing an increased emphasis on animal well-being. This means that when buying meat products, animal welfare is a major influencing factor in deciding what to buy. But customers can only make informed decisions if they have accurate information in the first place. And to get this information, they are reliant on the messages conveyed to them through advertising and labeling. Unfortunately, the message provided by Barter's advertising causes harm to its customers in two clear and distinct ways. First of all, customers were misled about the precise nature of what it was that they were buying. And second, they were not only misled into buying something they might not otherwise have purchased, they were actively impeded in pursuing their own ethical goals of buying chicken that met their own ethical standards. In actual fact, they're doing quite the opposite. Next to consider is Barter Enterprises itself, our second ethical stakeholder. Our solution allows the company to place a renewed emphasis on the values of honesty and transparency in its business identity. A situation in which a company misleads its consumers in order to increase sales does no favors to this company or its shareholders. It undermines the company's brand identity, and it raises fundamental questions about its corporate values and principles. By establishing proper fact-checking mechanisms in advertising, Barter re-establishes a relationship of trust with its consumers. It regains its reputation for reliability. This makes Barter into a company people can trust. Furthermore, we advocate that instead of misleading its customers about the true nature of its chicken production in order to increase sales, Barter could instead think about, in the long term, better aligning its production practices with community expectations and standards about animal well-being. This would allow barter to get ahead of the game by recognizing that animal welfare is no longer a fringe issue, and by making this an integral part of its business identity. One cannot talk about a company without also considering its shareholders, the third group of ethical stakeholders in this case. Our solution safeguards their interests for the long term by better aligning barter with the ethical marketplace of tomorrow. A basic understanding of a company's duty towards its shareholders involves the goals of maximizing profit and protecting brand value. So one could quite plausibly raise the question, wouldn't this be best served if barter simply fought the case and retained its current advertising methods? But in actual fact, we would argue that to do so places far too much value on the short term. We do not for a moment dispute that barter has a duty to protect the interests of its shareholders. Instead, we argue that this duty is better met by them making long-term changes, by allowing barter to develop into a company in better accordance with community standards. These standards include both a greater concern with corporate values of transparency and openness, as well as an increased level of concern regarding animal well-being. Last but not least are the chickens themselves, the fourth group of ethical stakeholders. In recent decades, there has been a growing recognition of the importance of animal well-being. This has been based, first of all, on discoveries in science regarding the capacity of animals to feel and experience pain and suffering and emotional distress, as well as corresponding discoveries and arguments in the field of philosophy, recognizing the ethical importance of minimizing this suffering. These are concerns that have now filtered throughout all sectors of society and have a major influence on consumers today. Our solution removes misleading information about the lives that barter's chickens are actually leading. It allows consumers to express ethical sentiments directly through the marketplace in their choice of what chicken products to buy, and thereby advocating for greater ethical standards in chicken welfare. And it allows barter to respond to and anticipate these choices in improving the standard of care that it provides to its chickens. Ladies and gentlemen, we have shown that there are multiple ethical stakeholders in this case. Our solution recognizes all of these stakeholders and it protects their individual interests. We urge you to adopt our recommendations.